Hey guys, today we're going to be building a Celeron from the ground up. We're going to be installing the motherboard and all the peripherals, and it's going to be a complete computer just like this when we finish. Stay tuned. Alright, I got this old motherboard out of a lot sale on eBay. I bought like 10 boards for $100, and it's got a ton of rust, and it's not in the best of condition. So what I'm going to try to do here is wash it in the sink with some CLR and scrub it down, and then let it dry for a couple of days and see if that takes off some of the, I don't know what that is. It's just like rust, oxidation, and it's even in like some of the sockets. So let's let this thing soak. It's even in the ATX connector here for the power supply. But all the capacitors look good. I don't see any bulging caps. That one looks a little suspect right there. That's literally the only one. So let's let this thing soak. We'll scrub it down and let it dry for a couple days and see if this thing will actually boot. I have a perfect case that I just bought on Facebook Marketplace for it, an Intel Celeron case. This is a very old Celeron chip. I know it looks like an MMX chip, but it's a very early Celeron socket 370. So without further ado, let's let this thing soak. All right, we got it soaking in the CLR, and I also put some other chemicals in there just to make it fun. And now I'm gonna scrub it down with this little handy dandy brush and let it sit for a little bit. Hopefully we can get most of this residue off of here and get this thing to boot. I have no idea if it boots, so I'm kind of wasting about $5 trying this, but it is what it is. All right, we got the board all dried up and we have it populated with RAM, and I'm gonna put a new CMOS battery into it. There we go. Now I'm going to hook up this ATX power supply and see if this thing boots, because I still have no idea if it works. All right, we have two little LED lights on the board lighting up. So I guess that's a good thing. Nothing has blown up yet. So let's see if this thing will boot. All right, now I have nothing but a VGA display plugged into it. So we don't have a keyboard or mouse, but maybe we should at least get some errors. And I don't have a PC speaker, so we're not going to hear any beeps either. All right, I don't see anything down here that says power, but we do have one called ATX switch. So we're going to try to short ATX switch and see if that turns on. All right, the power supply is on. And it's booting! Look at that! Intel Celeron 366. Oh my god, this is great news, guys. Alright, so the board came to life. Wow, the processor is getting warm already. I'm going to unplug it because we have no fan. But that's great. We have a new CMOS battery, we have memory, we have an old Celeron, and we have a micro ATX board that I can put in a beautiful case that I found on Facebook Marketplace, which is right over there. Hi, Milo. You're my good boy. This is my good boy. Yes, this is my good boy. Yes. All right, I threw a socket 370 CPU fan on there, got it plugged in, and now we're ready to get our tower and get this board installed. And here it is, guys. Isn't this thing great? Look at this. It even has an Intel Celeron badge. And it is an old beige ATX case in great condition. Now, I do not have all of the blanks for all of these drive bays, so I'm not sure what we're going to do here yet, but I'm going to have at least one CD-ROM and one floppy drive, and then we're going to have to figure out something with these blanks. The case is in really good condition. Case is in really good condition, actually. And here's a shot of the back side of the case. It looks like the I/O shield is going to match up with this motherboard, but you never know. Sometimes the peripherals are like a couple millimeters off and they do not mount properly. So I'm hoping I get lucky here, and I'm really excited to find out if this motherboard's going to fit in place. Let's give it a try. All right, we got the case opened up. Now I'm just going to have to make sure all of these standoffs are in the correct position for our motherboard, and let's see if the thing fits in place. I cannot believe it, guys. This motherboard fit in here like a dream. All of the holes lined up. I'm missing one standoff there, but I don't think it's going to matter. We have one here, we have two here, we have one up in this corner, and then we have the plastic mount right there. And then we have the plastic mount right there. So everything lined up awesome. This I/O shield worked perfect. It's exactly the same for this motherboard. Unfortunately, this board was from a recycling lot, and it does have a little rust on the parallel port and on the display port. Slightly oxidized, but this thing is booting and it's in great shape. I did wash it, you saw. I did the best I could. So let's get this thing screwed down and start adding all our peripherals, and let's get this thing fired up. I can't wait. It looks like we were able to hook up everything except the power LED. That one is 3-pin. I have to make it down to 2-pin, so I'll have to change that connector. But we have the ATX power supply plugged in. We have everything seated on our board. Now we just need some IDE and floppy cables, and we can go from there. So for our hard drive, I'm going to be using this Western Digital. It's a 10 gigabyte, and it's IDE. So let's get this thrown in the build and get some cables hooked up to it, and hopefully it works. It says it is a compact, so hopefully that compact was a working computer. We'll find out soon. All right, we have the hard drive installed. Now let's move on to a CD-ROM and see if we can get this thing to boot. Looks like I have to remove the other side cover to get a CD-ROM. And this case has a really neat little way of doing things. It has like plastic clips, and then the entire side just pops off. All right, so I'm going to temporarily try to fire this thing up to make sure that the power supply that came with the computer is working. Now, I do see the red LED light on the motherboard shining from through inside the case. So that looks like it's going to be working, but this is a universal power supply. It also has like an AT and also has a Pentium 4 power input. So I wanted to make sure it actually works with this ATX board. So let's see if it fires up. Right now I just have a really, really yellowed Hewlett-Packard CD-ROM that's not going to stay in this thing. I just have it in here for now because I want to make sure everything works before I go install everything. All right, it turns on. The CD-ROM is spinning, and we are booting. This is good news. Looks like we got 200 megs of RAM. Wow, even the CD-ROM is detected. The hard drive is detected. What the heck? It looks like they're reversed. So it's showing that the master is the CD-ROM and the secondary master is the hard drive. That doesn't seem right because I have them plugged in on the proper IDE inputs. Oh, no I don't. All right, I have to switch that. I swapped the IDE cables. Now let's try this one more time. Looks like my CPU fan needs to be cleaned. It's making a bit of noise. All right, it's not booting now. Okay, what did I do? It went from booting to not booting. All right, so I ended up having a stick of RAM go bad. I'm not sure how, but I pulled out one stick, so I just have 128 megs now, and now the system is working properly. If you notice in the middle of my build, when I have to reverse my IDE cables because they were backwards, and then once I do that, the board does not boot properly. So I ended up having a bad stick of memory, so I had to take the 200 megs out and I brought it down to the 128 stick. So I took a 64 megabyte stick out, but they were different clock speeds, so I was having issues with that. But then I also noticed right here that I have a Celeron 366, but it's really a Celeron 550. So I had to go back on the retro web and read the documents and reset the jumpers on my board because it was detecting everything wrong. So I had the wrong multipliers for my CPU, so that's why I was having issues. So I fixed all that, and then we rebooted and everything worked properly after that. All right, quick little update on the Celeron build. So I took off the CPU cooling fan because it was making a lot of noise, and for now I have this other one temped out on the heatsink just to keep it cool. And we have the 10 gigabyte hard drive formatted, and we are now in Windows 98 setup, and I'm going to be doing the installation. So far things are going good. I still don't have a floppy populated in there yet just because I don't need one right now, but I do plan on filling these bays up and obviously changing out this very, very faded CD-ROM because it's so yellowed it makes the entire case look bad. But let's get Windows installed and see how this thing performs. So far so good. Installation's going really smooth. It's actually pretty quick. It's only been about 5 minutes. So I got one stick of RAM in there. It's 128 megabytes, I think, and I think it's 100 megahertz speed. So the only LED that is not working is the power LED, because I have a 3-pin here, so I have to cut it down and make it a 2-pin. But the hard drive LED is working, so that's going good. That thing's flying. All right, it's time for the restart. Good old Celeron 550. Old school Celeron. So I have the CD-ROM set as the first boot, so it's going to ask what we want to do here. We're just going to go to the hard drive. And there we go. Getting ready to run Windows for the first time. Luckily, I was able to find this board on the retro web, and it did have drivers to get it running. So it does have a BIOS update, and it also has the Intel chipset. Now I had to find the sound driver on my own, which took a little digging. I had to end up going through the manual of the motherboard itself and finding what type of sound it was, and then downloading it directly from some download site. I don't know where it was, some generic site. But we got it working, and thanks to the retro web, this computer lives on. All right, quick little update on the Celeron build. We have all of the CD-ROMs populated and the floppies populated. So I have both CD-ROMs hooked up. I have only one floppy drive hooked up. The other one is just a dummy because I do not have a floppy blank. So that was just the way around it. So it does look normal, but one of these just does not work. It's this one right here, that's the dummy. This one works, these two work. So this thing just about done. We have the 10 gig drive right there, the IDE. We have the 3.5 1.44 floppy, and then we have a dummy floppy. The floppy works, it's just not hooked up. I mean, I guess you could have two floppies, but there's no need for it. And then we got the two CD-ROMs. We got the one stick of SD RAM, and then we have the Celeron 550 processor. I did put the processor fan back on. I cleaned it up and oiled it, and it's working really good. Let's get a boot of the Celeron and see how she does. .128 RAM. Detects all the drives properly. And it's booting into Windows 98. Very fast. I still have the CD-ROM set to first boot, so it just tries to boot, but it does not matter. So there we go. Well, I think that's a success, guys. We can put the rest of the body panels back on and get this thing buttoned up. And I need to clean up a few little blemishes on the case. Overall, this case is in really good condition. There's a few little dirty spots. And I think we can call it a day. And that completes this build. Thanks for following along, and we'll see you on the next one.